Yeah. What's up, everybody? Shane and Jocelyn here. Excited to be with you today on another Q&A with S&J members call. We are hanging out and trying to stay warm because the polar vortex has descended upon Kentucky, and it is freezing here. I was talking to a buddy of mine who is in Canada, and he said it was negative 20 degrees. That is really cold, y'all. That's really, really cold. Okay. So we are changing it up today. Didn't feel like moving our computers, so we're hitting it from the dining room, from the breakfast nook, or whatever we're doing here, sitting at this table, and going to answer a lot of great questions today. If this is your first member call, welcome. We're super excited to have you here. Go ahead and post your questions in the chat box inside of the Flip Your Life community post. This is being broadcast in other places, but only members can ask questions, and we only take questions from the actual member call post inside of the Flip Your Life community.
So if you're not logged in, do so now.
Do so now. Log in and check the chat. We got a lot of people watching, and I see not as many people in the chat room. So all you lurkers need to log in and let us know you're here so that we can make sure we do not miss your question. I see one question just got posted by Rocio, and go ahead and post some more in there. Got a new look in the chat box today. We logged in to prepare for the member call this week and realized that chat roll, what was it called? It was called
Chat Wing.
It was called Chat Wing, and they changed their branding. Then we log into Infusionsoft this morning, and now they've changed their name to Keep, and it's not even spelled right. It's like Keap. And my little girl Anna Joe this morning looked at the logo and said they don't even know how to write a K. So I mean, like all these people are like rebranding, and we're just gonna stay Flip Lifestyle forever.
Okay, so can people hear me? Because I'm trying not to hold the microphone, but I don't know for sure if it is
going to work.
Going to pick me up.
Yeah, you can probably put it in front of you like I'm doing too, and like move your computer back a little bit.
Yeah, I need to be able to type though.
Yeah, that's true. I'm reaching around my computer. All right, guys. So we've got a lot of people just logged into the chat room. Now we're cooking. Do you have to hit refresh on this new one, or what? Who was the last comment? Oh, there we go. Rocio says sounds good. Kathy says I can hear you. Deanne says I can hear you both. Looks like it sounds good. Okay, good. All right, go ahead and post your questions into the chat right now while we do some quick announcements for the community, and then we will get started on those questions. Okay. Sean says, giddy up. All right. What's up, Sean?
Awesome.
All right. So first and foremost, Flip Your Life Live. We are announcing either this Friday or it might actually be like Saturday or Sunday. We're going to roll out a podcast that goes over and actually full-blown, full episode announces Flip Your Life Live to our entire audience and everybody in the Flip Your Life community. Early bird pricing ends next week on February 8th, which I believe is Friday. So what's going to happen then is we are going to have to raise the price for the event as we get closer. Expenses, come due, and the price that's going to change the most is the monthly payment plan option, because 1 month is gone now in 2019. So that's less payments that we can make before we have to start putting down all the bills and stuff for the actual event itself. So if you want to get in now, go to fliplifestyle.com/live. Go ahead and grab your ticket. This will be the lowest price that you can get all year long for the September live event. My alarm is going off.
Are going off.
My dogs are freaking out because they think someone's at the front door because they heard the alarm. All right. But fliplifestyle.com/live. Does that link actually click? That link's not clickable. They changed it. Did you HTTP it?
No.
We're still getting used to our new chat box. Yeah, they don't click anymore now. So fliplifestyle.com/live. We have payment plan options right now so that you can kind of pay it as you go from now to the event. It's the lowest price it will be all year. We want everybody in the community, everybody that listens to the podcast, as many people as possible to be at this life-changing event. It was absolutely epic. We can't even explain it if you weren't there last year, but you really need to be there this year. And this will save you some money if you want to join now. So go to flippedlifestyle.com/live and grab your ticket. We just did the first training. That's something that's really different about our live event compared to other people's live events, is we prepare you for the event throughout the year. And we just did the first one yesterday. That video is posted right now in the exclusive Flip Your Life Live Facebook group. So if you want to check out that video, you want to get started, you want to catch up, make sure you grab your ticket right now. All right, Carrie's here, Rocio's here, Kathy's here. Lots of people logging in now, and we've got questions. Remember, if go ahead and post your question ahead of time. The video is a little behind the chat room, so we need your questions now. If you're going to ask a question, if you want to ask a question, you can ask follow-up questions. You can ask if you want to post more than one question. Go ahead and put that in the chat box. We've got our executive assistant Kathy here today, and she is filling out the questions ahead of time for us. And we will miss your question if you don't go ahead and post it. So take advantage of this opportunity. Go ahead and put your question in the chat box right now.
There's also a feature at the bottom of this chat box. There's like a little box with an arrow on it on the right. That will allow you to pop out the chat box into a different window, and you can like put it up by the video if you want to see the riveting footage of our dogs. Thinking someone's here in the background.
In the background. All right. All right. So, what's up, Brad? Brad says, so glad to be back on the call. He's on his lunch break. Awesome, Brad. Glad we could spin the time back around to where you could join us. Paul says, the training was great for Flip Your Life Live yesterday. Yes, it was. It was awesome. It was absolutely
Until I
epic.
accidentally killed the feed. Oops,
All right.
sorry.
I'm going to turn Jocelyn up because they said you're a little quiet. So,
All
let me
right.
make sure I got the wire going here. All right. Well,
Probably
let's
because I'm not holding in. I'm gonna have to talk like right into it.
right into it. All right. I'm just really loud, so I'm usually louder anyway. All right. We're going to jump into our questions. Go ahead with our first question for today.
All right. This is from Rocio. She says, I now have 3 lead magnets. I need to build out my autoresponder for 2 of these lead magnets as they are new. Does it make sense to keep these 3 different autoresponders with different messaging? I think the first 2 to 3 emails could be different, but after that, I can really just have the same messaging for emails 4 and onward. Does that make sense?
We do not make different autoresponders for every single opt in. We might make one email different, which would be the delivery email, because in reality, the way our business is set up, it works like this. Like, let's say I have an opt in for setting up a membership forum. Okay. And I'm like, hey, we have this course. It's called the Membership Mindset. And if you're thinking about starting a membership, this would, you need to go look at this. So they watch that. Well, then the very next step in that process would be installing a forum, right? So the first email that they get would deliver that thing that I promised them. And then I would offer them the next step. So I would say, hey, we have another course, the very next course that you will need after you do this thing that I gave you for free. You need to go ahead and join so that you can go ahead and get access to your next step. Now, at that point, I'm kind of done. We're just going to drop you into our general autoresponder that's going to give you like 7 to 10 emails that are going to try to sell you into the membership as a whole, because you can, really go down a rabbit hole. Some people do create an autoresponder for every single opt-in they do that's specifically designed for that lead magnet. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not sure if either one works better. It's just basically how much work do you want to put into it. We keep it more general, and we don't do that. I don't think for any of our education things did we ever. I don't think we ever changed the autoresponder based on the opt-in. It was basically like, here's the thing you wanted. Now look at all this other cool stuff. That's kind of
And there's nothing wrong with
been our
that.
approach.
If you want to do it that way, like you can, but it may not be necessary. Like I think I talked about this maybe on our last member call, how on Elementary Librarian in particular, I would basically I would have the same opt-in strategy for everyone. So like everyone would get the welcome email, like thanks for signing up for the list, and then they would get what I called like a resource guide. So basically, that was just a big long list of links to free stuff that I had. So it would probably be the thing that they signed up for, along with a bunch of other cool stuff. So that's the way that I always dealt with it, just because I didn't want to go through the process of making a ton of opt in, I guess, autoresponder sequences.
What you really need to do with your opt-ins is probably categorize them. So, like, we have 3 levels of people that we kind of talk about generally in our niche. So our niche is online business, like teaching people how to take their ideas, turn them into products, and sell them to other people on the internet, right? So for us, there's 3 categories of people. There's the beginner, someone who hasn't even started. There's the what we call the intermediate, someone who has started but maybe isn't making money or isn't making enough money like to even consider like quitting their job or anything. They got enough to invest back in their business every month, but that's about it. And then we have the advanced. That's the person who's either on the verge of being able to replace their income or they've surpassed that and they're ready to scale. So anytime I'm going to do any kind of opt-in, I'm going to consider it like one of those three people. So today I was actually just drawing out an email sequence for an opt-in that I'm going to create, because one of my goals this year is to be more prolific in asking for emails. So I want to share on social media this specific opt-in that I'm putting together from resources that we've created in the past, podcasts, downloads, whatever. So that was without question a beginner opt-in. So I would probably put that under the category of beginner. I might do the same thing later with another piece of content, but it's still a beginner thing. So I might write 2 or 3 email sequences, and then every time I make a new opt-in, I would just put it under one of those categories. So I could have, instead of writing 20 opt-ins, 20 email sequences, I might have 3. And then I just look at the opt-in I'm making that I'm going to advertise, and I would say, oh, well, this is clearly probably a beginner. This is an intermediate. And that would work probably for any niche. So I would not recommend making a new email sequence for every single opt-in that you ever create, but it would probably be wise to make 2 or 3 to have some categories for different market segments. Okay. All right. Great question. Awesome question.
Okay.
Okay. Maribel says chat role blocked or not compatible with my browser at work. Finally on my phone. Awesome. Okay. That may be something that has to do with your employer. Or if you're having trouble seeing the chat, just it's definitely working in Chrome. We use Chrome and Firefox, so both
Well,
of
it
those
may
are
not if it's
working.
blocked by your work for
Yeah, that's
some
true. The work,
reason.
yeah, work or school may block that for sure. Okay. All right, great question, Rocio. What's next?
All right. This question is from Sean, and actually, I just answered this in the forums not too long ago, probably about an hour ago. He says, I'm looking to pivot to providing cybersecurity people. I'm sorry, cybersecurity training to people versus trying to serve businesses as a whole. And so, what I said to you, Sean, in the forum,
What was his question in the forum?
so basically, he had developed a course for, I think, businesses, and then he's wanting to know, should he pivot? And my question was, why are you wanting to pivot? I was a little bit unclear about that. And he has a podcast now, and he's starting to reach out and get more listens on the podcast and developing more of an audience. So I think he's just trying to figure out, like, is this the right direction or should I change? And so what I said to you in the forum, Sean, is that I think what you need to do is, since you have an audience built up, is to go out to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing some different things. Here are some options that I'm thinking about. Which one would be best for you? See who you are serving right now. And that's usually the easiest people to sell something to.
Yeah, and if you've already got an audience, like don't even. You can always just send an open-ended question. Just say, "Hey, what's going on? What do y'all need? What's frustrating you? Why aren't you buying my thing?" Like, another thing I would always stress too before you pivot, like, I'd be willing to bet you're not promoting your product enough. Like, are you telling people every podcast you have something for sale? Are you talking about this thing you've created for businesses? Like, are you actually talking about their issues and problems on your podcast, or are you just picking what's in the news? Like last night, there was Sean's in cybersecurity. Last night, there was a huge thing trending worldwide that FaceTime, basically someone can listen to your phone whether you answer the FaceTime call or not. So people can just spy on you, basically. And when you see something like that, like you want to immediately go on and talk about cybersecurity. Well, if you have a course about businesses, they may not care about FaceTime. They may not be using FaceTime. They may worry about hackers that are trying to hack in and steal trade secrets. Are you talking about the right things in your free content, or are you drawing in the wrong person for your product? You can totally do that. It would be like if I had a history teacher podcast, and on my podcast, instead of talking about US history, I only talked about geography. Okay. They seem related, right? It's the same, hemisphere or whatever, but it's like they're not really related, because the history teacher is looking to teach about history, and maybe geography is a small part of that or a related topic, but he or she is not just going to listen to that and be like, man, I really want these history lesson plans, So you may think you're in the ballpark with your content, but you're just not drawing in the right amount of people. Um, but there's nothing wrong with a pivot. I mean, pivots are good sometimes. Just make sure your pivot is grounded on logic and reason and not emotion or frustration. If you pivot because of frustration or because you see somebody else doing something, you're probably doing it wrong. If it's all about emotion, you're probably doing it wrong. If you have a logical reason that says, wow, 80% of the people I surveyed are individuals who need cybersecurity help, I should pivot, then yes, you should pivot. But, dramatic changes like that shouldn't be done, just on frustration or anything like that.
Or I tried one thing and it didn't work, therefore I need to change my strategy.
Right. And also too, like Sean, I know you've been doing some freelance work, you've been doing some consulting work. That seemed to be like it was going good. Like, what are you learning from those one-on-one clients? Like, that's usually the next thing you should create. Why are you doing this? Is it just to get a bigger audience than what you originally niched down to? There's nothing wrong with creating a separate product and not fully pivoting. You could just have it there and see if people buy it. You could pre-sell something to your existing list and test the waters and let people try to vote with their wallets. If they do that, then you go. We usually only pivot when someone gives us money. I think that would probably be a good way to say that. Like we would only do something like that if people raised their hand and said, "Yes, I'll pay for it." So we would always test it that way first before we actually pivot. But you know why? Because the question you asked is basically, should I pivot? Did someone give you money in another area? Yeah, pivot. Are you just guessing? Then don't pivot until you actually have some correct data. Okay.
All right, this question is from Brad. Brad says, "I'm getting set up at home to start doing some live video Q&As. I have all the equipment I need, so my question is not on the technical side.
Okay.
What are some pointers for conducting live calls like the one we're on so I can save and reuse the content for later? I want to streamline the process where I can. Regardless, I'm going to take action and do the live stuff anyway."
Okay. So one thing that we discovered a long time ago about calls like this um, was that you don't want to overscript it. Like we have a format. We're not trying to force the conversation. It's we all log in, you ask a bunch of questions, we take them as they come, right? Because you can really over rehearse and over script and overdo things. Even like the announcements that we make. I mean, we basically 5 minutes before the call, what do? We like, hey, what do we want to talk about?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it was that.
Yeah, it's
I
probably like
think
the
we
five
kind of
seconds
just
before I hit
do it on the
start.
fly.
Yeah, like we just kind of write down three things we want to tell everybody and make sure everybody's up to date on everything. And I also embed YouTube Live. I use YouTube Live for our video because it's already available to me in a format that can be made public. Like we can go in and download that, cut it up, create new questions. We can use it inside of our membership area. Like this membership call, this Q&A call will automatically be here, replay ready after we're done, right? So we can email the list of any members that didn't make it today and say, hey, go watch the call. It's already there, right? So using simple tools like YouTube Live, I highly recommend doing that. We do use Zoom for some things, but it's only really like protected things. Like we are going to be doing some Zoom calls with our Flip Your live event attendees, only because that is a completely separate deal that is not really a part of the membership. It's a part of the people who are attending the live event, right? So that would be we would do that over there. But right now, just keep it simple, man. YouTube Live. I mean, we've even sent people to the YouTube link. Like we don't have to do it inside the forums. Like if we do a public Q&A, we usually just turn on YouTube Live and use their Q&A software, and people are in the chat box, and you get some trolls that make fun of you. One guy last time we did a public Q&A was saying he got on there and goes, "I had an ex named Jocelyn, never liked her." Like you'll get some trolls, but you just got to overlook those idiots. And just do it and have the video, and then do something with it later. This actually reminds me of another whole other different issue, but it's kind of related. My buddy just did a free plus shipping book offer, and it was incredible watching how many opt-ins he got from that, right? But what stuck out to me wasn't this funnel or this email sequence, or even the way he promoted it. It was he had this asset that he wrote once and could create forever and do anything with it. Half the battle is just create the content and then figure out what you want to do with it later, right? It's like if you're just doing the Q&As, you're going to figure out what to do with it later. You're going to figure out how to repurpose it later. Every week I look at something that we do or a question that we've cut up and answered, and I add it to one of our newsletters. I added a video to our newsletter last week that we did 6 months ago because it was relevant to what we were talking about on our podcast that week. So I threw it in the email list. So just make the content, get the content out there, and then figure out what you're going to do with it later. Don't try to plan out every move you're going to make. Look about 2 moves ahead, and then kind of react what's going on in the future with that.
All right. This question is from Maribel. She says, other than browsing through posts and social media channels, I cannot read today. Let me try that again.
It's cold. Your brain's frozen. It's freezing.
What is wrong
It's
with
like
me?
negative
I don't know.
10 or something.
Okay, let's try that again. Other than browsing through posts and social media channels, is there a way or tool to quantify if my avatar is on Twitter more versus Facebook versus LinkedIn, etc.?
Well, I mean, what you could do, the ad platforms are probably the best tools to find something like that out because you can build audiences. So, like, you can go in to the Facebook ad manager, you can set up an ad, and you can play with audiences, right? Like, you can say, married women with children 0 to 3, and you'll see, like, it'll show you like a number of how many people meet that demographic requirement in Facebook. You can do the same thing in Twitter. You can go build audiences like that. But, I'm more
Honestly,
art than feel on this one. I like to organically just see who's reacting and who's talking to me.
my favorite way to do this is a lot simpler than that. I mean, you can definitely do that, but I think the best way to figure out where people who are interested in what you're selling are hanging out is to find someone who's already an influencer in your space. Someone preferably who's like a really big name in your space.
Yeah, that's
Go
true.
and look at their social media accounts. So see how many Twitter followers they have, see how many Facebook followers they have, see how many people are following them on Instagram, how many on LinkedIn. And that way you can look and see, okay, well, this person has 1 million followers on Twitter, but they have 500,000 on Facebook. So maybe Twitter is a better place for my audience, for example.
I actually, that's really good. I was looking at somebody just doing that same thing the other day, and they had 42,000 followers on Facebook, but they only had like 1,000 followers on Twitter. So that person is clearly succeeding on Facebook and not on Twitter. So if you were that person's competitor or in the same, general area, you would pick Facebook in that
And
case.
you do have to be careful with this. I mean, you don't want to just pick one person and look at it because it could be that they've paid for likes on Facebook or whatever.
But it gives you a feel.
Like get a few people in your industry, look at what's the trend, what are most people on. Okay, most people are on Instagram in this space, so I need to be on Instagram.
And also too, don't take social media so important, guys. The rules of the game have not changed that much, even though the tools have. The bottom line is this: you have to create content, you have to get found in search results on search engines, and you have to get people on your email list. Social media is a rabbit hole. If you go look at our social media pages, we don't have a ton of followers because we don't put a lot of energy or effort
We
into
also
social
don't
media.
pay for likes or
No,
followers.
we don't do
ever.
that. Like we're not really worried about that. We're much more worried about our content, our podcast, our blog posts, our opt-ins. How do we get people on our email list? And 90% of our energy goes into communicating with our email list and our members. It does not go. Social media to me is kind of an afterthought. It's kind of let's schedule it, let's put it out there, let's try to get likes and shares, but it's just an endless rabbit hole that you've got to be really careful of because you can throw a lot of money and a lot of time down that rabbit hole. So focus on your content, get found in search, like share stuff, but make great content that your people who love your stuff can't help but look for and find. And that's going to pay more dividends down the road.
And that being said, if you have not followed us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram,
go ahead.
We are there.
Probably haven't.
I'm not really on LinkedIn. I don't know why. Like I think I have an account, but I have not logged into it probably in years.
The only reason I use LinkedIn is because our little share buttons on our blog posts that we the little at the top. I actually created a LinkedIn account just so I could share it there, so it looked like somebody was sharing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've not logged into that in years.
Yeah.
And who knows, it could have been hacked by now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you definitely follow us on Instagram though. We are I think we're at like 975 or something. We're so close to 1,000.
That's what I'm saying. We don't we don't even have 1,000 followers on Instagram because we just
we really just started using it probably about a year ago.
But we've made plenty of money without big followings on social. You don't really need it. Now, I back up a little bit. Like, I probably do more on U.S. history teachers Facebook page. I think I've got like almost 5,000 followers on there. So that one I probably use a little bit more, but the goal is to get people on the email list and engage with the content. So yeah, it's pretty good. Another thing you can do too, this is totally random tangent, but like I've believe there's more success in third party markets for stuff like this. Like we sell lesson plans on Teachers Pay Teachers to get found because that's someone who's buying lesson plans, right? So maybe you could go to Udemy or masterclass.com or whatever it's called and see if you can figure out what courses people are buying, put your course there and get found that way. And then you found buyers. I'd much rather have a buyer than a follower any day of the week.
All right. This question is from Elizabeth. She says, my email list is very quiet. The list has been building since the beginning of my blog back in January 2014.
Ooh, old school blogger.
My open rate is low, percentage between 15 and 30,
That's fine.
and the click through rate is even lower, between 5 to 10. Do you think it would be beneficial to clean up the list and remove those who are not opening? I've tried to encourage engagement and feedback, but do not get any responses. Do you have any tips for stoking the fire with my list?
Okay. For one thing I would say is only remove people who have like opted out from your list. You can clean up your list. That's fine. Get people rid of people opting out, but don't trust the stats. Your open rates are more than likely higher. What you're seeing is actually fine. It's 15 to 30% is more
That's
than okay.
totally normal.
Yeah. And remember, you're not seeing the entire picture because email service providers like Google, Yahoo, Hotmail, whatever, like they all filter out tracking pixels if their privacy settings are set that way. Because a tracking pixel is actually a 1x1 white pixel image. It's an image file. It's like attaching a picture to your email. Okay. And a lot of email providers, especially on mobile, because of data rates, because of privacy concerns, they actually block the images. So if a person doesn't allow images to load, then you don't even know if they actually open. So all open rates are actually higher than you see. Period. That is the truth. Research it. Don't take my word for it. Open rates are always higher than what you're seeing. I don't even look at our open rates anymore. I don't care. Okay. Now, click-through rates are pretty accurate because they actually do have to physically engage with your list. But even that can be like a little deceptive because you can have security things that click the link and check it and make sure it's not a bad site and whatever. So be careful with that, but that is a little bit more accurate. Okay. Again, 5 to 10% is really good. That's okay. Okay. What I would focus more on, and this is what we focus on every day, I want to know how my page after the click is converting, and I want to know how we're getting more people on the list. Because let me tell you something. If this page makes sales and I keep flooding people on the list, all that stuff in between is irrelevant for me to know correctly because I want to know if we're making money, right? So what I would ask you is, what are you selling after the click? What are you actually trying to get sold and is it making money? And then what are you doing to put more people on your list? Because let's say your rates are 30% and you've got 100 people, okay, and 30 people opened. Well, if you went and got 200 emails, 60 people would open. And if you went and got 500 emails, then 5 times 30 would open, 150. If you went and got 1,000 more emails, then you'd have 100 and whatever, you'd have more people open your. So like it's kind of irrelevant, that open rate, right? It's kind of irrelevant, that click-through rate. You can't know it for certain. There's no way to know it for certain the way technology works today. So the only thing that you can physically control, that you can mentally control, is, am I getting more opt-ins? That's measurable. I know it's working or I know it's not. If I put an ad out for an opt-in, I can see that I spent this much money and I got this many emails, right? I can look at my analytics on my website and I know if 1,000 people went to that page, that 1,000 people went to that page because it's my website, my analytics. There's nothing in between. They clicked there, they went there, or they didn't, right? And then I can see like how many people that landed on this landing page bought my product. I can control those two things. I cannot control open rates. I can help them with good subject lines, right? But I can't really control them. And I can't control click-through rate. I can help it with good copywriting, but I don't know for sure if it's being measured correctly. There's really no that. So I would focus on the things you control. Don't focus on the other stuff. Your numbers look fine. I'm telling you, that's what everybody. I know a guy. who makes over $1 million a year, and his open rates are always like 9-10%. But he don't. But his sales say that he's actually getting more opens. It doesn't matter, right? So, don't get too caught up into those numbers. Clean up people that opt out. There's no reason for them to be on there because they've already opted out. But I'd leave everybody else on there. We don't take anybody off unless they actually opt out. Once they do that, they're gone. Doesn't matter, But
Well,
then keep those emails because you can upload them and show them ads.
yeah, I would
So
download your emails before you delete anyone because you can always use that for retargeting in advertising because you're not emailing them, you're just showing them ads.
yeah, a great thing to do with that is upload all the opt outs and have an ad for them to opt back in. So just do another opt in that they might like and be like, hey, have you seen this thing? Come opt in for it. And then they go do that and they're back on your list. So re-engagement campaigns, you can use those. Waste not, want not, recycle everything. That's how online business works. So that's a good question. Very good question. Stay the course, get more opt-ins, work on conversions on your sales pages. You'll make more money.
And you're doing fine. Like, don't freak out about
Yeah.
it. That's totally normal open rates and click through rates. All right. Kevin says, my avatar is really only active for about half the year, fantasy football. So I'm trying to figure out how I will be able to retain members the other half. Do I need to have a really attractive annual plan to make that work? I also plan to sell some products, courses separately to counteract the slower months.
I mean, Kevin, my main thing I would say to you is fantasy baseball, fantasy golf, fantasy basketball. Like if you've got people playing fantasy sports, they're playing other fantasy sports. So in March, when football's over, do a March Madness pool and talk about it, and get those people to jump into your pool, or to get those people to subscribe to get make it a year-round thing. Like maybe you only like football, but if you want to make more money the rest of the year, sometimes you got to segment there. If you've already got buyers, right? Like that's what we all look for. Look for buyers. Don't look for subscribers. Don't look for fans. Don't look for followers. Look for buyers. And if you've got buyers that are into fantasy football, I'd say at least half of them are probably into another fantasy sport. I just did I did a fantasy pro wrestling league where you draft people for like 3 months and they go with their wins and losses on TV. So, I mean, fantasy sports are huge, and those people probably do stuff in the off seasons. So I think different products, different courses, different sports would be the first thing I would go after, because it's hard to engage with football, year round. And annual plans might be the way to go. It might be the way to go where you can just get a bunch of money up front. You get everybody for the whole year. It's the same amount of money, and you just pace yourself when you spend it. But I think new products is probably the best way to get more people with your existing customer base, because some of them are going to be interested in fantasy baseball. They just are. So
Yeah, and I don't know a lot about fantasy sports personally. I mean, I never really played this stuff, but isn't there some type of content you can deliver to them at different times of the year?
like
Like, I
trades
know
or
that they're doing combines and things like that. Can you talk to people about what's going on in the off season, like what certain people are doing, who to look out for on next year's fantasy rosters?
yeah, there's a
Like, is
newsletter.
there something that you can do in the off season that's still related to that? I don't know the answer to that question because, like I said, I'm not a huge well, really professional sports fan in general, but I'm sure that there's something that you could talk about that people would be interested in that would still be beneficial for them to stick around.
And also in 2020, new sports league, XFL, there's going to be a new football league from February to, I don't know when they're going to do it till May. So, I mean, that's coming back. So maybe you can jump in on that and, pick up 20% of your people to improve your retention because you're talking about the XFL. And, there's just think just outside of your circle. Like you've hit the bullseye in the middle. What's the next circle out for your people? What does your avatar do the day after the Super Bowl is over or the playoffs are over when fantasy? What do they do? Because they got to do something. I mean, some of them have to be paying attention to March Madness. So, what's next? What's next for them? What's their calendar look like? That's where you need to go.
And if you don't feel comfortable, I can just kind of hear you saying in my head, okay, well, my zone of genius is in this
Football. I hate
sport.
everything else.
Yeah, so maybe you could find someone else. And I'm not saying do a profit share exactly, but maybe you could pay them to
Write
create
articles.
content for
Yeah.
you and get it out to your list that way. So, I mean, it's probably not going to be as big of a hit as your fantasy football people because that's your bread and butter of your business, but
It'd improve
I think it
retention.
would be a way to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you want to do next? And what are they doing next? right? It's like hunting buffalo. The buffalo are eventually going to move, right? They settle down, you kill a bunch of buffalo, you eat good, right? Then the buffalo get up and move, and you're sitting there looking at an empty prairie. Well, you got to move. You got to get up and go hunt somewhere else. So that may be where you got to go next. Because I'm a big buffalo hunter, all my vast knowledge in hunting buffalo. So
Right. Okay. Let's see. Rocio, I'm going to skip over this one because we've answered another question, and if we have time, we will come back to it. All right. Paul says, I'm trying to figure out the tension between offering my free mini courses in my videos, opt in, or the $1 free trial of my community. Do you have any guidance?
okay, say that first part again.
Okay, so he's wanting to know basically, should he do a free mini course for an opt in or the $1 slash free trial of my community? I'm not 100% sure what you're
It sounds
asking
like should
here,
he do an
Paul.
opt-in or a trial to get everybody into the community? Well, we do trials for simplicity. Like that's usually what we do. We're actually our trial. What is today? Today 29th. We're actually ending our free trial for a while so we can test some other offers. We're gonna do some other things on the back end and like some different price points coming into the community because we want to test some things. Last year, we did a 6-month test of a free trial. Before that, we did a 9-month test of a dollar trial. We've got good data on those now. So this is a long term effort. If you've never tested either one and you're just launching, the probably the best thing to do is give something away for free and then in your email list offer them a trial. You have to establish a baseline before you can start testing things. You know, the Flip Your Life community started in, I think, 2014, right? So we had a couple years of data selling memberships by getting opt ins, getting people on our email list, getting them to webinars and selling them things on webinars and email lists, right? And, you know, we had a couple years of good data to create a baseline. And then once we had a baseline to compare it to, we said, let's try a dollar trial. And once we had 9 months of data on that one, we said, cool. Now let's test a free trial versus the dollar trial. So now we have, 4 years of data that we've painstakingly and been disciplined about collecting to say, well, this is what it looked like when they just paid to get in. This is what it looked like when they opted in and we sold them this at a full price. This is what it looked like when they opted in with the dollar trial. And this is what it looked like when there was no opt in and just a free trial. And we can make excellent decisions on a vast body of data that we've painstakingly split tested over 4 years, right? So if you don't create a baseline for your business, your avatar, your niche first with the true fundamentals, create content, free opt-in, sell something, you're not going to be able to know which one's actually better because you can't try it against anything. So if this is a new business, then go with what works. Create content, get a free opt-in for their next step, sell them something in your email list and on webinars, and do that for 6 months to a year, and then you get to test the next thing, right? Don't just create two things and assume you're going to know the answer to all your questions. So that's probably what I would do in your shoes. I would actually give away the free opt-in, sell them stuff, and then do that at least for 6 months, and then test it. The other way.
Okay, so the business is 6 years old.
Okay, if it depends on your data still. Like if the business is 6 years old, you should know what's already worked. If you've been doing nothing for 6 years but a free opt-in that sells them a product on the back end, then you have an amazing baseline. And you should go now and test something else to half your list for 6 months. Like split your list in two. You only email these people what you've always done to keep your, control your baseline, and half of them get the new thing. And that will tell you the answer in it's January. So that'll tell you the answer about July. That'll give you a good indicator of which way you should go. It's not true because you can't get a data set big enough to know for sure, but it should give you enough data to be able to make some educated guesses on what your next step is. So it's good.
All right. This question is from Brian. Brian says, I sent an email to my 5,000 subscribers that my membership is now live. 1,300 people opened, 30 clicked to the sales page, and nobody bought. I sent a follow up email with the FAQ section with similar results. I have a limited time discount offer that expires in a couple days, and I plan to keep emailing my list. Where do I go from here?
Something live. You've got at least 30 people who raised their hand like they were really interested. If 1,200, how many people opened? 1,200?
1300.
If 1,300 people opened and only 30 clicked through, you've got some kind of copywriting issue in your email because, you can, like I said, the open rates are always higher.
That's not terrible. I mean, it's a 2.3%.
It's not, but I'm saying like you've got an offer to an existing list. You got the open rate is probably higher than that because you're not getting full. The data is not accurate. It's always higher than what it says. So if it says 1,200 people open, you might have more. And you got 30 people that clicked through. The only thing I would say with what we know about what you're doing is one, scarcity hasn't kicked in yet, and most of your sales always happen in the last 48 hours. So keep hammering, especially the people that clicked, because you do know they clicked. Other than that, I would come back and follow up this specific thing with a live performance. Online business and making money online, working from home, being self-employed on the internet, you can't just make money on an email list. You can't just make money because you have a podcast. You can't just make money because you do webinars. Everything is always all of the above. And if anybody's telling you otherwise, they're probably selling the part that they tell you is the most important, right? But it's always all of the above. Like follow it up with a webinar, follow it up with a social media campaign, follow it up with more emails. Go to your inbox, your actual email, download those 30 emails that click and personally email every one of them a video and ask them if they have questions that they want to ask you, not a FAQ. Like go get the sales, like go get them. So do some more all of the above stuff. Don't just rely on the email launch. The email launch is just the beginning. It's just the awareness. It's just the random product placement in the movie of the Pepsi can. And then you go to the store and remember you want Pepsi, right? You need to add some components to this to follow up on
Well,
it.
and I would also be curious to know, like, how much are you emailing your list before this? Is this just a random launch and they haven't heard from you in 6 months? Like, sometimes people do that. They want to work on their product and they kind of ignore their list, and then all of a sudden, when they're ready to sell it, they're like, okay, great, I'm going to send this out to my list, and then maybe they haven't heard from them in weeks. And I'm not saying that you've done that. I'm just asking the question, like, is this a list that is still warm? Usually, if nobody's buying, actually, it's probably a combination of a couple of different things. First of all, your scarcity might have been too long because people will typically wait until the last minute.
How many days was the
I think you said
campaign?
like a couple more days.
Yeah, it might have been too far out.
So I would give it until the last minute because a lot of people are last minute buyers. So, can't judge it just yet based on that. And then also, I would say maybe run some paid ads to that list because there's a lot of people who may have never seen the email. Maybe it went to bulk, maybe it went to spam, whatever. And, maybe it's something they would be interested in, but they just don't know about it.
Yeah. We had like when we first sent the first email for Flip Your Life Live this year, I think we had almost 1,000 clicks or something like that. But very few people even remotely bought that first couple days. It was when the VIP tickets started selling out that people started really jumping on it. And we reminded them, hey, you're about to lose your opportunity to do a VIP ticket. And last year, when we sold Flip Your Life Live tickets, every month the price increased because it had to because we got closer to the event. And every time I sent that email, price is going up in 48 hours. All those people that were sitting around the whole month and not doing anything but knew the event was happening started clicking because we started. And then when we almost ran out of we ran out of tickets somewhere in like, I guess May or June. Like, I sent it out and said, there's 5 tickets left. Do you want to come or do you don't? And they all sold out. So it's all scarcity. It's all, you remember, people have a lot going on. Like all you care about is your online business. That's our laser focus. That's the obsession that we all have. But everybody else only cares about their obsessions and their problems, and they're in the moments. And if you're not in the moment or there's not some reason for them to move, they're not going to. So that's why live stuff works because, hey, I'm going to be here an hour. I'm going to sell you something in this hour. And if you don't buy it in this hour, you're not getting it. So maybe you could schedule a webinar during the last part of the scarcity, like that day, and invite all those people to come learn more and talk to you live. And you'll probably sell more because it'll be more urgent,
Yeah,
basically.
and I would just give it a little bit more time, like 30 people to see your offer and not take it. I mean, it seems like a lot, but really you need hundreds to see the offer and see what the conversion rate is then before you can determine whether or not this is working or whether it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Another good strategy here for everybody on your email list. That's why in any kind of scarcity situation, like people want to hide their price and they really want to get people to click to their sales page. That's cool. But like what we've started doing is like the last email before scarcity is basically a sales page. I just want to make sure that they open that email and at least they saw the price and know the offer and like this is it. Like, make sure they see all the information. So maybe you could put a little email there an hour before the thing goes out and you just copy your sales page basically into your email list and really push them to go.
All right. This question is from Gretchen. Gretchen says, my lead magnet is a PDF and it's also a blog post. I do not have my lead magnet on the thank you page. Workbook 16, instruction on autoresponder sequence, says the lead magnet should be on the link you sent to their email, which will redirect them to your website. My concern is that they cannot download it from my site when they opt in. Should my email link them to the blog post and then have that same email attach the PDF file? My concern is that they cannot download it from the blog post.
Okay, I don't know why they wouldn't be able to download it from the blog post. That doesn't make sense because if it's a PDF and you're using WordPress, you would just upload it into your media file and put a link to the file. And as long as the file is not protected, it should open in their browser. So that's the technical answer to that question. Early in any email sequence, your goal is to get people to click to your site because the behavior that you're trying to train is that if you open my email and if you click this link, you will get something cool and good and you will get a dopamine rush and your brain will tell you that it feels really good to click my links. Okay. And then later down the chain, when you offer them something for sale, it's going to be much easier because you've already trained them that every time they click the link, something good happens, right? It's going to be easier to convince them to do that. So, one, I would not attach files to people's because we have there's all kinds of spam blockers and
It's generally
file
not a good
blockers, and
idea.
it's just not a good idea. And we want them. The goal is not for them to get the PDF. I know that sounds weird. That's one of the goals. The main goal is for them to say, Gretchen's awesome. Her website is awesome. And every time I go there, I feel good. And every time I consume her content, I get a result. So, man, when she sells me something, I'm going to do it. Right. Like that's the goal. So, the figure out why they can't get the PDF downloaded. That would be
Yeah,
my
I'm a
first
little bit
guess.
confused why you couldn't just upload it to your site and have a link to it in the blog post.
Yeah. I
Like
don't know why that
download
would.
this
Yeah.
PDF here. And if that doesn't work, I mean, do a Google Drive link or something. Like
Yeah.
that seems like a pretty simple problem to fix. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what
Yeah,
you're
I'm not
saying.
I'm not sure what you use for your website or your blog, so that might be an issue. But if it's WordPress or really anything I've ever seen, you upload a media file, you have a link, and it clicks it and just opens it in a browser window. So that's the technical problem you probably need to attack, and not worry so much about attaching things to the PDF.
All right. This question is from Sippy. It says, I don't have a product yet, but would like to launch my new coaching program with a paid challenge.
Hmm.
How do you suggest coming up with a challenge idea? And would you make it free the first time?
Okay, so Sippy has an audience, right, to actually sell this to. So if you did not have a social media following or an audience, Sippy, I would say to give it away for free. But I would always look for buyers when I already have an audience. And I know you do have followers and you do have an audience. So I would charge for it, but it would be like a tripwire. It would be like a low price. Like, what would you say? Like $9, something like that. Like,
19, yeah.
yeah, under 10, under 20, whatever. Just to like maybe identify some buyers out there because you want to do coaching, which means you want to charge people. So let's find people that are willing to buy and just cut through all the rest. Okay. In this specific case. As for challenges, if you have a well-defined avatar, like in that, Flip Your Life Blueprint, we have an avatar course that helps you create an entire customer profile with demographics and everything. So if you have a well-defined avatar and you know what you want to coach people through, right? Like I can't just say I'm a sports coach. Like I want to coach a kid how to be a good football player, and then I would even go farther down and say I want to teach this group of kids how to be quarterbacks. Right? I got to be that specific because then I've got to know what the next thing I'm teaching them is. Like, is this a 10-year-old quarterback? because he's going to learn something different than an 8-year-old quarterback or an 18-year-old quarterback. Like, I've got to know the thing they're struggling with, and I can get them a result with. That's the challenge. Like, that's the challenge. Like, if you came to me and you said, I am really struggling with my idea for an online business, I don't know what I would be good enough to do, then I know that I've got to get you through that to get you to buy anything on the other end of my sales funnel. So I have to say, here's our 7-day challenge on how to come up with your perfect business idea, or our 24-hour challenge, how to come up with your business idea. Like, if I did that and I got you that result, you would probably buy my next thing, which might be coaching, right? So who do you want to help? What is their next step? Where is their sticking point? That's what a challenge does. A challenge unsticks you. Where are they stuck? What's the thing that's keeping them from getting to the next level in 1 week? Get them through that with your challenge. Talk to them about that problem, and then you can sell them your coaching program. So that's how any kind of challenges basically work.
All right. Let me see. This question is from Kevin. Kevin says, my goal for 2019 is to pay off $12,000 in consumer debt and use membership sites to do it. I have decided to create 5 memberships. Oh, Kevin.
Hold on. Is it levels or memberships?
No. For the 5 separate topics I want to teach online. I launched the first one this past week and got 10 members paying $20 each month.
There you go.
All right, we'll take it. I taught a Zoom webinar and will be creating more content for the membership this week. My plan is to launch 3 more in February, the 5th one on Excel in March. Please provide feedback on my strategy to use memberships to pay off my debt this year. Should I try to create and grow all 5, or should I focus on one at a time and grow each one until I get a minimum number of members in each?
Well, Kevin, you're a go-getter, and that's, you're throwing mud on the wall. Okay. I am not always against throwing mud on the wall. I will say this. It's very interesting that the first one you launched already has 10 paying members. If you can find one, if you can find 10, you can find 100, you can find 1,000. So if you went all in, you would probably find more. And you don't need that many people to pay off $12,000 in debt this year. You really only need $1,000 a month to pay off $12,000 in debt. So that means at $20 a month, the membership you've already launched, you would only need 50 people. If you could find 40 more people in that one thing that converts, you would have 50 people paying $20 a month, which means you would pay off your consumer debt and reach your goal this year, right? You'd have some attrition. You might have to add a couple every month to keep above 50, but you've kind of already done that. And, if that's your goal, you might be smart to go all in. Now, if you've already got everything else ready and you want to roll those out and see what happens, maybe 50 people join your Excel membership in March. I don't know. But usually it works better to find a nail that hammers and hammer it. And 10 people paying $20 is only 40 away from achieving your goal in 2019. That's it. So,
And, I think it kind of depends on what you're doing too, and like how much availability that you need to have. Like, how much bandwidth do you need for each one? If maybe you don't need a lot, or if you can combine some of them together. Like, I don't know exactly what you're doing, but say one is a course on,
Excel, one word,
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
or yeah, if it's something like that, that maybe you can answer questions together, like that might make a little bit more sense. I think 5 sounds a little
I
excessive
wonder if
for
he's
me.
I wonder if he's saying 5. I wonder if he's really saying, like, some people get confused between product and membership. Like if, like, for example, if you had I kind of know what he's doing here. Like, if you have Excel and then the next thing is Word and then the next thing is PowerPoint, those are 5 probably sales pages that lead to the same membership where all the courses live. So it's really just, it would be like avatar, offer, product. Like, we have
Now that would make
50
more
courses,
sense to
right?
me.
But they're all in the same place. So people find it for different reasons, but they join and see all the cool stuff and they stay in. So, if that's what you're talking about, then just put them all in one and sell them, use them to sell everything. But starting 5 websites with,
Bands. Since I started the site, my wife and I have been promoted at our church to worship directors. So now
congratulations.
we are leading 20 something people, singers, drummers, guitar players, etc. What are some ways I could leverage the leadership and perspective shift I've gained from being worship director for what I'm doing on my site now. It kind of feels like a distraction at this point while I'm getting started, but I can't help but think that the worship director thing is important in some way.
The main thing is just document everything you're doing, because eventually that will turn into some kind of product. What is the saying? It's like don't create, document, right? Like if you just document everything you're doing and just share it with people, like that's what they want. They want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see and then you're kind of doing the work once, but you've got multiple uses and purposes for it, right? Like I was doing this thing the other day. I was documenting a new kind of format for my week where I really focus on batching. To be really prolific on the back end of all my batching. So one day I batch one thing, Tuesday I batch another thing, Wednesday I batch another thing. So basically, by the end of the week, I've batched 5 things for the next 5 weeks, and if I do it again, it's going to be even better, right? I just shared that with our Flip Your Life Live attendees yesterday, and they loved it. So just document. Everything you do is content, right? And even if it fails, document it, right? And then you can use it later. I would also say too, like depending on the relationship you have with the church and what you're doing, like that's great leverage. Like that's great marketing material. Like pictures of you on stage leading a 20-person band, like in front of 500 people. Like when people's a picture is worth so much more than telling people I'm a worship director, I lead 20 people every week. Or you've got a big wide shot of 500 people in the congregation and you singing in front, just a picture like that, just to prove expertise. Like that'd be a great opportunity for marketing material. But other than that, just document.
Yeah, I think
So,
even like sharing some struggles would be beneficial because there are people in your audience probably who can relate to that. Like maybe they've suddenly found themselves as the worship leader. And I think that being able to relate to you and, just understand what they're also going through, like maybe you can create some type of product or offering to meet those needs too.
I'm feeling a theme in today's call of what should I do next? What's the fork in the road? Which is the right choice? And like without oversimplifying what we do, Jocelyn and I just create and document everything and throw it out into the world. Like it's like and like we like to know what we're doing next, but we don't have to know what we're doing next. Like that's not the point in this. Like the main thing is just create the asset, create the documentation, create the blog post, create the opt-in, create the email list, create the whatever. If you get an idea, do it, and you might be able to use it later. You might not, right? You don't have to know, Brad, what you're going to use for leverage later. If you go ahead and create it, you'll have it when you get there and you come up with an idea. Um, so don't get too caught up. And like maybe you never even need to leverage this. Maybe you just say, it's too much work. I don't want to do it. Well, just go be a worship director in the daytime and go be an internet marketer at night. Like you don't have to know what to do next. So don't let that. A lot of people get paralyzed, which is worse than being stuck. So don't get paralyzed with this. Just keep moving forward. Okay. If it becomes overbearing, don't do it. If it holds you back from other things.
All right, this question is from Gina. She says, since my summit, I have other counselors in my field reaching out to me about teaching them how to move and see their clients online. My industry is new, and with students having such busy schedules, seeing them online is easier. Working with other college admission counselors is something I have thought about and have the ability to easily reach out and speak at industry events. I would like to set up a beta group and build content and success stories, but I don't know how to charge for this.
Okay. So earlier in the call today, we had a question about should I pivot? Okay. And what we and in that instance, I felt like it was kind of like like it was kind of an emotional decision. Should I pivot? Like I feel like I should pivot. I don't know. Maybe something's not working. Maybe I'm frustrated. This one, we have someone who has an existing audience and business that they're working on, and all of a sudden, a lot of the people they're interacting with are asking for a certain thing. This is the clue that you should create a new offer or create a new course or create a new coaching program, because you have people begging you to do it, right? So this might be worth exploring. This is the clue of a pivot. A pivot means someone is asking for something or trying to throw money at you, and they can't give you their money because you don't have the thing they want, right? So setting up a beta group for this, is more like, what's your hourly rate? Charge them, see if they'll pay it, right? If they'll pay you what you're making hourly in your normal job, then charge that for now because you don't know, right? What to charge. Then the next 10 people get charged more. So I would definitely explore this. Anytime anybody asks for something, if we get like 10 requests for something, we go down that rabbit hole because I like people that want things and want to pay for them.
All right,
So
Gina. So I'm kind of going through this right now, actually. I have decided that I just wanted something kind of new and challenging to work on. And because of that, I have decided to kind of start like going down a brick and mortar marketing path. And the reason for that is actually several different reasons, but mostly because I see local businesses opening in our area a lot, and I see them failing not because of any reason other than they just don't know how to market. And it just kind of makes me sad. So, because of that, I have kind of taken it upon myself to start learning more about it and see what I can do in that space. And, I'm just going to just kind of throw it out there and see, okay, who needs this service? And, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but I am trying out some different things. And I'm actually working with one of our members here in the community who also owns a local business. And I'm just kind of trying my hand at it and see what I can do and like what kind of offer I want to put together. So, ideally, when you're doing something like this, you want to be at the intersection of what people are looking for and what you are willing and able to do. So for this, I don't want to do like a lot of one-on-one consultation. I want it to be more like I get to think about things and process them and then create a report because that's what I enjoy doing. So that's how I'm going about it, and I'm going to see does it work, and if it does, then I'll sort of open it up to more people.
yeah, and like the key is like people, we've seen the need for it. You've seen the need for this. Like Jocelyn saw the need. She goes to the local nail salon, gets her nails done, and they're just begging her to tell her how to market their business. And they're really good at doing the nails. They just really suck at getting people to walk in the door to get their nails done, right? And that's kind of what's happening here. You've got people that are like, "Here's my problem. Like, you seem like you could solve this problem for me. Could I give you money to solve this problem for me?" And you're like, "Well, wait, I don't have anything formal." Like, no, just accept the money and let them help you figure out how to create the thing, right? Um, Maybe take on 3 people or one person and see if you can
And
get
just
them a
try it
result.
out.
Yep.
That's what I'm doing. I'm taking on one person. I'm just seeing what I can do. I'm seeing what kind of results they get. And based on that and how I feel about doing it the way that I did it, I will decide whether I want to change it, whether I want to leave it the same, if I want to charge X, if I want to charge Y. Like I'm just sort of trying some different things out right now.
You got to stay the course with your business, guys. But if an opportunity comes up, not every opportunity, but if you really feel like something's interesting, explore it. That's why you have your own business. Like you can be disciplined and still explore at the same time. Okay. So go for it. See what happens.
All right. We had a success story just a little bit
I
ago.
saw Kevin. He launched it and got 10. I
Um,
think it was David, wasn't it?
yeah, actually, did you already read, Kevin?
I did not read Kevin's. Well, he
Okay.
talked about it in his question, though.
Okay.
He had 10 members
He
join,
had
right?
10 members join. Yes.
Going for
Awesome.
25.
David did his first live event yesterday. He did a Facebook Live Q&A. It was not perfect, but it was done. I sent an email out to my member list and an announcement 40 minutes ahead of time. I was worried no one would show up, but they did. My viewers peaked at 43 ish. I took course training questions and membership questions. It lasted an hour, and I had okay engagement, 30 comments and questions.
Good.
I did not have a call to action, so no new members. Maybe next time.
Yeah. Always do a call to action at the end of anything you do live, guys. You never know. And remember, video stays forever. So if somebody finds it later, they could, join your
But
membership.
hey, you
Good
did
job.
it.
You got it done.
And like
Live and learn, move
yes,
forward.
it's a jumping off point. Let's do another one.
All right. Ben says, love the room you are in, by the way. Oh, we're in our breakfast nook, and that's our living room behind us, and our dogs are
I
cached
didn't
on
see
those
that.
cots back there. So
Thanks, Ben.
those succulents are a nice touch. What is a succulent?
Probably these little things. Yeah, like so these little plants. We have this big, I don't know what would you call that? Like a glass bottle that usually sits here, but we've moved it because of the call.
Yeah, it was in the way of the camera, so
So these little plants
it got
usually
moved.
sit around it, but right now they are sitting here with nothing.
All right, here we go.
Okay, let me see here. All right. We are going to Jennifer. Jennifer says, going off this email stuff, I feel like my conversion rates are really low for new email subscribers in my main automation. Should I redo my onboarding automation? Okay, so I think she means an autoresponder.
I mean, we would
Onboarding will be for a customer. I assume you mean for people who are not paying yet.
could be like read that question one more time. We might need more data.
I
We
feel
might need,
like my conversion rates are really low for new email subscribers. So I think she's saying for people to purchase off the autoresponder sequence.
yeah. Give us more numbers. We need numbers if we're going to be able to answer that question because like I need to know like here's a rule for me and Jocelyn, by the way, that we get mad at each other about this, but we do it. Um, if we start a sentence with I feel like, we know that we have to re-say that because you can't base your business decisions on how you feel. It is only based on numbers, like real concrete. Like I have 1,000 people and only 10 opened or whatever. Like we need actual numbers if we're going to be able to answer that question, probably. So if you could repost that, we'll jump back to it here in a few minutes and try and get that. Okay. Like let us know the actual numbers because
You may have to post it in the community because I'm not sure that we will
yeah,
get to it.
we just don't base any decisions on feeling. That's not a knock at you. We do this all the time. Like if we say, "Well, I feel like this subject line would work better," then we wait, what you feel like, or you actually sent the email and tested it. Like that's what Jocelyn would say to me or something.
And I
Like,
would say that in an autoresponder, like probably your conversion is not going to be great on an autoresponder anyway, just because it's text and like people want to feel like they're really getting to know you. So usually we have more luck with like live things.
yeah, I would just want. I mean, it's important. It's an important component, but
Okay.
no feelings, no feelings here.
All right.
No sugar
This,
and no feelings.
let me see here. I'm trying to see. All right. I just want to make sure that I'm not repeating any people.
Gotcha.
All right. This question is from Ben. Ben says, "I'm beginning to wonder if I have the problem and solution figured out for my DIY landscaping niche. I have a low opt-in rate despite offering pertinent opt-ins on each of my podcast episodes and a few ad strategies on Facebook and Google. Right now, I'm trying to solve two problems: having confidence to get started with DIY landscaping and saving time on landscaping chores. Does it sound like I need to focus on a different problem statement or maybe work to change something else?"
Hmm. I mean, trying a new opt-in is not bad. Again, I would love to see the numbers here, like how many people like are listening to your episode compared to the opt-ins. And it may be an audience size issue. You may just need more people in your audience size. Like you may need to focus a little bit of your energy on advertising your podcast and getting more listeners, which would, of course, increase more opt-ins. Sometimes here's what people do a lot. A lot of people will toy with their offer and their opt-in, and that's why we go down these rabbit holes of these people who sell these big copywriting courses and these big marketing magic 3secrets.com expert secret whatever's right. We've done it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that stuff. I'm just saying it's rabbit hole. When sometimes it's just about getting more eyeballs, right? Sometimes it's about advertising the thing that gets you the most listens, the thing that gets you the most views. And then, if you have 1 million people that listen to you, you're going to have more opt-ins, right? Like, so like, could you focus, maybe go away from your opt-ins just for a minute, and like why not go get 1,000 more listeners? Like maybe that's the answer, right? Like there's a really good course inside the Flip Your Life community that people skip over sometimes. It's called the Sales Chain, and it basically takes you all the way down the customer journey from discovery of your brand to purchase and use. Okay, and what it does is it sets it up like a link in the chain from, left to right, almost like a linear progression that people follow to give you money, okay? And to keep giving you money. And we all get focused on the sexy stuff like the email autoresponder and the passive income and the automation and like all these things, but really it's just I need more people to pay attention to me. If that happened, that's why we focus so much on being consistent and prolific in content creation, because that's what actually grows your business, not writing perfect emails. So
Okay, he says he has about 100 downloads per episode. I get one opt-in a week without promotion. So when you say without promotion, do you mean like without paid
Ads, yeah,
promotion?
yeah,
All right, because I just wonder like what you're saying on the episode. If you're like, "Hey, I have a download for you, go to my website." Like that's not enough. Okay. So on your episode, I mean, say it's about how to find the best trimmer for hedges. Okay. I don't know much about landscaping, obviously, but say that's what
if you
you're.
saw our landscaping, you'd know that was
Yeah,
true.
you would know that's very true. Ours needs to be ripped out and redone. But anyway, okay. So if you're doing a podcast about that, then you might say, "Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I have a free download for you that has information about the top 5 hedge trimmers, and I would love to see you download it. Just head over to my website.com/hedge or
Yeah,
whatever." And like just make sure that you're making it simple that
relevant to
yes.
the episode, but even still, like, okay, let's say you get 3 people out of 100, like that's a 3% opt-in rate from audio. Like the answer is not increase your percentage on the opt-ins from your podcast. It's go get 10,000 listeners. Like if you had 10,000 listeners and one out of every 100 went in and got it every week, then you would have more opt-ins. Like, so it's where are you focusing on every area of the sales chain? If not, you need to go watch that course and you need to figure out there's other ways to make the end goal is more sales to increase, right? Well, but if you pour water in over here, it floods every compartment all the way down to the sales and the opt-ins and the traffic and the listeners. So that's what you've really got to focus on is increase. You need more listeners.
Yeah, and I would
You know,
say use your data to your advantage. So go in and look at your podcast. Which one has the most downloads? That's a clue of
advertise it.
what people like to hear about. Okay. Go into your Google Analytics. If you don't have it installed on your site, do it immediately. Okay. Go in there and look and see which of my blog posts or which piece of content is getting the most downloads or people are coming to the most. Look at that and say, okay, I need to do more content about this particular thing.
Okay, if you're
Okay.
getting one email opt-in after every podcast on 100 listeners, well, and this is not a huge number. If you had 10,000 listeners in a month, that'd be 100 emails a month. And if you could sell 10 of those people a product every month, you would grow. So, don't get caught up in something that you can just take, like tweaking is not how it works. Like I don't think I've updated the first 7 emails in our email sequence since like 2015. I have not tweaked anything in our opt-in. Maybe just adding a free trial email, but it's the same 5 or 6 email. Like I know for sure email 3 has not changed since the day I created Flip Lifestyle's email autoresponder. It is a story about the first person we ever helped sell something online. It's the same email, the same picture, the same text. I'm not even sure it's been proofread since then. So, like, don't tweak, get more people. That's always the better answer. Okay.
All right. This question is from Rebecca. It says, I'm trying to figure out how to shorten my work schedule but still be productive. Last year, my executive assistant tried to help me implement a daily theme schedule. Wednesday was content creation, Thursday was off day, Wednesday was meet with customers day, etc. It didn't seem to work that well as my VA still set up podcast recordings and random meetings on random days.
Mm-hmm.
Should I switch to theme weeks instead and only do podcast interviews on one week, have an entire week for content, etc.? Okay, I'm answering this one.
I
No.
bounce
You can
around.
back the truck up. Okay. So,
Uh,
all right, Rebecca. Well, Shane, he goes through these phases, I guess you would say, of we are going to do this and we are only going to make doctor's appointments on
I'm
this
only
day
doing this and I'm
and
only doing
we
that.
are only doing personal stuff on this day. But the problem is life does not work that way.
That's true.
So, the reason that we do what we do is so we have freedom to live our lives. If I need to go to the dentist and my personal day is Wednesday and they don't work on Wednesday, as my dentist office doesn't, then we have to figure out a way to do something else. Okay. So, we have tried this before. I'm not saying that it is a bad idea necessarily.
Especially in sprints. Like there are sometimes like, like next like one week we could say like, okay, well gosh, in the afternoon we've got, kid activities every day at 4. We can't do anything in the afternoon next week. But like the morning would be free that week. But then the next week might change. So,
That's the
spurts
thing.
are
It's like
okay, but you just can't.
If it's something that's completely within your control. Sorry, my kid is FaceTiming me. If it's something that's completely within your control, then I would say that you can do this. Okay. If it's something that is not in your control, such as other people's schedules, um, like appointments that,
Emergencies, I mean,
yes,
whatever.
like content creation, yes, you can pick a day and plan that because that is completely within your control. Getting people to schedule appointments with you, that is not completely in your control because their availability is not the same as your availability.
And you can't say, like, I'm telling you right now too, like, this is just above the board stuff. I know a lot of people that actually say on their blogs and in their podcasts and their CEOs and all this stuff, and they say to themselves, every Wednesday for the next year, I'm only going to do content creation. And that is bullcrap. I know it is because they're talking to me on Wednesday instead of doing content creation. So, like, this does not happen like you think it does. Like, it's not like, like people like Michael Hyatt or the 12-week year guy, like, do for this. That's not true. What people really do is they say, this is what we want to accomplish next week, next month, next quarter, and they schedule it out based on what's happening in their life. Like, that's just how it works. And like, everybody talks a mean game about this, like, that's a quote unquote influencer, but we know them and it doesn't work that way.
And
I'm telling
sometimes you
you.
just don't
So
feel like doing it. Like
yeah.
yesterday, we had planned to record a podcast. And, we sat there, we worked on the outline for the podcast, and we even started recording it. And we're just like, you know what? We don't feel like doing this right now. So we
Well, we,
didn't.
we tried. We tried for like 5 minutes and we were just like, it wasn't going together right.
And we could have toughed it out. We
Yeah.
could have finished it, but it wouldn't have been a good product.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with scheduling days or scheduling times for things as long as you understand that something could happen.
Yeah.
You may not feel it that day. Like, I think it's always a good idea, even if you do decide to operate this way, to have backup times. So that way, if you are not feeling it or something happens, you get rear ended, which happened to us not too long ago, and something happens, like you have to figure out a way to make it work.
Schedules are important, but you're just setting yourself up for failure if you say, I will only create content on Wednesday forever, right? Like, that's just, we usually fall into a general schedule of some, certain times we're doing certain things, like homeschool might be in the morning. We might do work in the afternoons. Like, we try to avoid anything we can at like after 4 o'clock. I mean, we have some guidelines that we try to keep up with. But like this morning, Jocelyn said, hey, what do you think about a member call on a Friday night at 9 o'clock this month? And we were like, yeah, cool. But like, we don't just say we only do member calls on Tuesdays at 12. Like, that's not how it
We've
works.
tried to do that, but it just
It
doesn't
just doesn't
work with our
work. Like,
life.
and it's like, it's just like you're just allowing yourself to put shackles on you. So anyway, my point is, what we found works best, and what I've seen work best with the most high level people I know, is you set the tasks that you want to accomplish for this quarter, this year, whatever. I don't care how far out you want to look, but like, and then you just each week make the schedule based on what's happening in your life. Like, you can plan ahead for trips, you can do things like that, but like, like, we just booked a trip to Mexico. We've got a cheerleading meet, and we were like, man, we're near an airport. Could we just get on a plane and leave? And we said, yeah, let's do it. So, but like, if we said we only meet, the
Well,
second
that
week
was
of the
content
things,
creation day. We can't go to Mexico.
can't go to Mexico. We only create content. The team knows this. Like, like, so, I
And
mean,
I always tell Shane, like, sometimes he gets bent out of shape about this. He'll read a book or something and be like, well,
no,
this
it's not
person
even
does it
that.
this way.
It's more like when we get off the same page with each other, and like, I'm like, I've got 4 things that I want to do, and I want to do them after work, but then you've got 2 or 3 things you want to do in the morning, and then we get, kind of off schedule, that this really messes up. But
Yeah.
or like,
Well,
I hate working after 4 o'clock. I just despise it. I don't like it. And, I do try to avoid that, but sometimes it's unavoidable. Like, I'm meeting with our Infusionsoft person tomorrow after 4 o'clock. I have
I
to.
know, but sometimes you get into this rhythm
I
of
get in
wanting to do
modes.
it that way. And
It's like keto or being vegan. Sometimes I want to be keto. Sometimes, they say vegan will make you live longer. I don't know. What am I this week? Am I keto or am I vegan? It's either all
yeah.
meat or all plants. One of the two.
So yeah, Shane changes a lot. And, I always say, like, the reason that I started doing this is so I have flexibility and I can do things that I want to do in my life. So if something that I want to do comes up during my work time, then I change it because that's the reason I do what I do.
Yeah. Also, too, like I think she said earlier, like her team wants her to do something or whatever. Like, like teams are great for suggestions, but you're the boss. And like, if you want to do that, then by all means, go all in and do it. But if other people are telling you to be better, like, is it better for you? Is it better for them? Like, it's, it's your business. So, just if you want to be more efficient, there's lots of ways to do that. And I'm not saying don't do things in spurts, but just be careful. Be careful when you give the wheel of your ship to someone else because they might run it up on the rocks. So, be careful.
All right. This question is from Sarah. I'm going to keep going on the webinars that Shane challenged me to do. After being on vacation and then being sick for a week, I want to start doing ads to get more attendees. Is it okay to do them directly to my webinar, or should I just be doing them to a free opt in and then trying to get them to come to the webinar through email?
The webinar is the opt in. That's the best way that we have found to do webinars. I'm sure there's other people that could probably show you some kind of data that's different. But like any opt-in you have, one of the emails should invite them to your next webinar, and any an ad goes that's the easiest way to get an opt-in. Hey, I'm doing a live training Thursday. If you can come put your email in, I'll give you a reminder. If not, I'll go send you and if you can't make it, I'll send you the replay. But I've got to have your email to be able to send you the replay, so come opt in. It's a much cleaner funnel to do it that way. Like free training this week, whatever. YouTube ads are great for this because you can just pull out your phone and be like, hey, this is Sarah. I'm going to show you how to do XYZ on Tuesday. Click the link. Make sure you opt in. Want to make sure that you got any questions that get answered. That's something that we do on our webinar forums too. It's a really neat little trick. Like, hey, we're doing a webinar this week. You can ask us a question. If you can't make it, go ahead and put your question in and we'll try to get to it on the broadcast. And then when they get to the opt-in form, it says name, email, question, and they can just type something in. And it helps you to kind of fill in your FAQ ahead of time, but it gives them a really good reason to go fill out the form and opt in
or to watch the replay,
or to watch the
if
replay
they didn't show up.
to see if they got answered. So, little tip there for your opt-ins.
All right. Eva says, I'm in the midst of hiring my first VA. This VA wants to have a clause in the contract that states that her wage be up for negotiation every 6 months. Is this typical?
I mean, if they want that, that's fine. And if you're comfortable with it, that's fine, because negotiation doesn't mean they get a raise. I mean, I'll negotiate with anybody every 6 months if you want to talk about it. But that doesn't mean you're going to give them a raise, because there's millions of VAs and you could go hire another one. So I don't think there's anything wrong with people asking for that. And I don't think that's about a good period to talk about it. Maybe.
Remember that it's a contract that two people have to sign. If you don't like it, if you don't like that arrangement, don't sign it.
Yeah, there's other VAs. Like, if you're comfortable with that, but like, I wouldn't agree to give someone a raise every 6 months. Like, I would never do that because they might not deserve it.
I think for me, like, to feel comfortable with doing this, to going forward with it, and I don't think there's necessarily a problem with that. I just want to tell you that, like, I don't have a problem with her asking for that, but I would make sure up front that there's some type of what am I trying to say?
Expectations of what?
Yeah, but I'm trying to say, like, there's some type of tangible system where you can say, okay, these are my expectations. Are they being met or are they not?
And you don't even have to tell her. I mean, you need to tell her your expectations, but how you're grading those doesn't matter. Like, our main thing that we grade anybody on that we work with is attitude. Like, if you're awesome and you're cool and you're a good person and you're positive and, like, we can work around things, in things, with things, like, that's the main thing we look for. It's not even just about getting every task done perfectly every time, but like, everybody's a little different. But, just always remember this. No contractor or person you hire ever gets to dictate terms to you, but they are humans and they have needs and they have wants, and they're just like you. We're all emotional creatures, and, we do need to negotiate and treat people fairly. So if the request is reasonable, then go for it. Right. Like, don't worry about finding the industry standard in every single contract. Like,
if they're the right person for the job, then I would say it's probably worth it. But for me, I would like to have some type of checklist that in 6 months, when this negotiation comes around, you don't just say, well, for the most part, you did what I wanted you to do. So, yeah, I guess I'll agree to a raise.
And then you create an expectation that they're going to get a raise every 6 months.
Yeah. So instead, I would say, okay, well, according to this criteria that I have written down, like, you've met my standards in these two areas, but I see that you still have work to do in this area. And because of that, I'm willing to give you X percent instead of the Y percent you're
Or I don't
asking
feel
for.
comfortable giving you a raise right now. Like, I mean, it's just one of those ongoing negotiation things. And like, there's so many variables in that too. Like, are you giving a Christmas bonus? Like kind of like a raise? Like, are you doing? I mean, there's just so many variables in every kind of hiring decision. Another thing too is like, just because someone signs a contract like that, like, I would never count on anyone being there a year from now. Like, that's just people don't stay for 50 years anymore. Like, so it's like, it's everything's up for negotiation. So just don't let it become leverage against you or make you feel guilty. You don't want to do that. Like, if it's a good fair agreement, like, yeah, let's talk about that every 6 months because you may deserve it. If you help me grow my business 10%, well, sure, I'll give you a
Yeah, and
raise.
I was
You
gonna
know,
say the exact same thing. Like, you might even put some type of performance objective in there. If we meet this criteria, then you would be eligible for whatever pay
a
increase.
lot of my friends who have big teams, they're really into performance-based bonuses, not raises. Like, it's not just, oh, you were here long enough to get more money. It's like, like, oh, you did really good this year, here's a good Christmas bonus. Or, oh, I'll revenue share 5% because you manage my ads and the business grew 20%. Like, and then it's performance based. Like, well, if you actually can prove that you made me more money, then I'll help you make more money. So, you
Yeah,
know
we actually prefer those types of arrangements to just okay, you've been here for so long, and let's talk
Yeah,
about giving you a
that's
pay increase.
entitlement. We had an entitlement situation one time, and we just fired the person. So,
Yeah, and just watch out, because I feel like as people are discovering virtual employees more and more, like, people are getting more and more entitled. I feel like we had this situation not too long ago. Like, we had some overseas employees who were basically asking us to pay them like an American assistant, and we're
like, we
like,
could hire
no.
someone that lives next door. Like, your economy, like, that's not where you
Like,
live.
the
Like,
reason that we hire people overseas is because it's
it's a
less
cost
expensive
savings,
for
and it's
us.
good for them because they make 3 times more than anyone that lives near them. So it's
And
like,
so because we had that issue, like, we decided, okay, well, if people are going to ask to be paid like Americans, we're just going to hire Americans. So that's what we did.
yeah, I'm just, and also too, like, we don't know the context of how they asked this. Like, is this just their, form listen, here's another thing. Remember, that's a human. They may have gotten burned like bad. Like, someone just kept taking advantage of them, kept giving them more work, and 18 months later, their workload tripled, and they didn't pay them any more money. Like, that could be why that's in there. Like maybe ask them, like, why did someone burn you before? Like, have you had a bad experience? Like, I'd love to talk about this more and like learn from them. Why do they want it? And be open to the fact that they may want you to do that. And at the same time, you're the business owner. There's one of you and there's 100 of them. So it's just a balance of that.
Two people signed the contract.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. This actually be the final question of the day. If we did not get to your question or your second question, you can post it in the community and we will be happy to answer it. This question is from John. It says, I just created my website, theagilelandscaper.com, on how to start and run a landscape company, and I'm beginning to build content through blog posts. I have three in the works, along with curating content on the Facebook page. I have my lead magnet set up to capture emails. Beyond content generation, what is the next step I should be taking? My core offer is going to be an online course that walks potential landscape entrepreneurs through how to start and run their business.
Your next step, since you already have your lead magnet, is to create your actual product, because you said my core offer is going to be an online course. Like, you need to create that, because you can't technically write your email autoresponder until you have something to sell. So you would need to, if you've got content being created and you've got an opt-in and you can collect emails for that opt-in, the next thing you need is an autoresponder that leads to a product that gets sold. That's how you build your income stream. So, make your product. Go ahead and make it, and don't make it complicated. Make it 3 20-minute videos with 3 PDF downloads. Done. You could record that in one day. Everyone listening who doesn't have a product, turn your camera on. In 3 hours, you should have a product. I mean, it's just, what do you teach? Write down 3 points for each video. Teach it, get a printable that they can fill out a worksheet or something that they can take action, and then get a result. Like, go make your course. If you have a course, you can point everything toward it, and that means you can make money. So,
And just keep in mind, John, and actually everyone in here, that we do have a full series of trainings on all of this. Pretty much start at the top, work your way down. It's going to tell you exactly what to do.
yep.
It's over in the right hand sidebar. It says all FYL training. It's also in the left hand sidebar. It says, think Flip Your Life
Yeah,
Blueprint. So,
there's an actual printable blueprint at the top of the thing that tells you in order what you should do. Like you can print it; it's 2 pages long. You take out a highlighter; it tells you exactly which course to watch next, and it'll keep you from getting off track.
and
Right?
if you didn't know, each module has a printable workbook. So you can print the workbook as you go through the trainings. You can write things down in it, write down ideas, and just get everything figured out and organized that way.
Okay.
All right. I want to welcome Corrine. She said this is her first member call today. We are very happy to have you. And then we have one other success story from Judy. It says, I finished my first mini course. Right now, I have a couple of people testing it out. Um, oh, this is actually a question. Are there specific questions I should ask them for suggestions on improvements?
Usually I just say what's frustrating you. Anytime, yeah, I don't get into big deep surveys. Like, just ask people what hurts. They'll tell you. Like, go into any gym and find a guy that looks like he's over 50 and be like, "Yo, what hurts?" Well, my hip, my back, my elbow. Like, people are going to tell you what's wrong with them. Like, go read Facebook. Like, people are always trying to tell you what's wrong with them. So just say what's frustrating. What's your problem? How can I help you? And keep it open ended, and they'll definitely guide you more to where you need to be, um, than you would be trying to figure out the exact multiple choice questions. You got to read a little more, got to put a little work into it, but it works. Okay. All right, guys, don't forget, Flip Your Life Live is on sale right now. That's flippedlifestyle.com/live. Could you throw that in there one more time? We would love to see you live and in person at Flip Your Life Live. This is an open event for anybody in our audience, anybody in our community. We want everybody to meet us in Lexington, Kentucky in September for Flip Your Life Live. It's an awesome event, life-changing event. We do live Q&As just like this after every session. Jocelyn and I come off the stage. We come into the crowd. We pass the mic around until everybody gets an answer to their question about that session. And we do these live and in person. And we have a lot of work sessions too. We get a lot of work done, get a lot of action taken at Flip Your Life Live. We are having a podcast about that next week, and prices do increase on February 8th, which is next week. So
We
make
do
sure
have
that you go
payment
right now.
plans. So, that's an opportunity
Yeah,
for
you don't have to put
everyone.
it all down. A lot of these, I was looking at prices for other conferences the other day, like Funnel Hacking Live, Social Media Marketing World, and they're all over $1,000. And we really worked hard this year to actually get our ticket price down $100 from last year. So our early bird pricing right now is $100 less than last year's ticket, but we're adding more value into the community, more value into the event, and we would love for you guys to be there. We've made it as affordable as possible with our payment plans. I think it's spread out over like 6 months or something like that. But those do go up on February 8th as well, because as we get closer to the event, there's less months left for us to make payments available. So it kind of goes up. So on February 8th, the price will increase. We'd love to have you there. Go to fliplifestyle.com/live. We'd love to answer your question in person and meet you in person. So it'd be awesome. And stay warm out there, guys. It is freezing cold. We got a lot more work to do. We're about to record a podcast. And until next time, do whatever it takes. Flip your life.
Bye.
Bye. See you then.